Good morning. You're now listening to Kingston Community Radio, airing on FM 92.5 and AM 920 WGHQ, Kingston, New York. This programming is brought to you by our listeners and corporate underwriters who are interested in presenting local community radio. The opinions expressed on this program do not represent those of Pamel Broadcasting or Kingston Community Radio. Listeners are encouraged to send in $10 per month to help bring this program to you. Mail your contributions to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. For more information or to donate online, visit our website at mykcr.org. And good morning, this is Dan Gaddis, and thank you for being with us on this Medical Monday, February 7th, and it's about 20 degrees right now here in uptown Kingston, and thank you for sharing the morning with us. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Moms, we don't know how you do it all, but you do. You are part teacher, counselor, chef, and doctor, all rock star. Being a mom today is complicated and sometimes unpredictable, but it's those precious moments that make your journey together crazy and wonderful. At the American Heart Association, we know your family is why. That's why we're here for you, to make sure more of those moments happen, to make sure a healthier, longer life is possible for you and your family. We're impacting laws that help shape healthier communities, but we can't do it without you. Moms are at the heart of change. So here's to you, Mom. Here's to impacting the health of our future. Moms United can make real change. Start by visiting lifeiswhy.org/moms, the American Heart Association, and the American Stroke Association. Life is why.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Getting support from friends online kept me on track.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
Instead of smoking after I ate, I'd get up and take a walk.
I missed having a cigarette in my hand, so I'd hold a pen or a straw, anything.
Until I knew I wouldn't give in to temptation, I spent more time with my friends who didn't smoke.
I went to places that were smoke-free.
I didn't stay quit the very first time I tried.
I kept on trying, and I learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
I quit.
I quit.
I quit.
We did it, so can you.
You can quit. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
Introducing the YMCA. What, you already know the why? Or so you think. Sure, you know the why for a swim, a workout, even a game of hoops. But did you know we're more than that? We're a cause. When you take your jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Take a cardio class, while kids are in an after-school enrichment program. Practice your downward-facing dog as a teen practices her leadership skills. That's the why. We work with people no matter their age, income, or background and give them the opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive, all with one simple goal in mind, to strengthen our community. And we've got so much more that does just that. So while you might think of the Y as that place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. Introducing the Y. We're so much more than a place. We're a cause. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, my name is Jackie Lovezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
And we're back, and thank you for being with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. I think we're waiting for Eric Stanberg, Dr. Eric Stanberg, and Robin Baker to call in. I'm not sure that they're actually going to be here in person. And you're listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. And my name is Dan Gaddis. It's KCR's Talk Radio and a call-in show. Our call-in line is 331-9255. 331-9255. And our Facebook page is facebook.com. Groups KCR 920. And again, I'm just kind of in the wings here, waiting for a call. I guess it's going to be a call in from Dr. Eric Stanberg for the show today. A little neighborhood announcement. This is definitely something that we don't usually do, but a great neighbor of mine had lost their miniature schnauzer on Sunday, February 6th. Hannah, little miniature schnauzer, mostly black. If found, call 845-338-5081. 845-338-5081 if you know the whereabouts of Hannah, a miniature schnauzer. And that neighbor would be overjoyed. And again, we're here with us. You're here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920, 92.5 FM. And I'm going to go to break for a few minutes and see what's see who's going to be calling in.
Moms, we don't know how you do it all, but you do. You are part teacher, counselor, chef, and doctor, all rock star. Being a mom today is complicated and sometimes unpredictable, but it's those precious moments that make your journey together crazy and wonderful. At the American Heart Association, we know your family is why. That's why we're here for you, to make sure more of those moments happen, to make sure a healthier, longer life is possible for you and your family. We're impacting laws that help shape healthier communities, but we can't do it without you. Moms are at the heart of change. So here's to you, Mom. Here's to impacting the health of our future. Moms United can make real change. Start by visiting lifeiswhy.org/moms, the American Heart Association, and the American Stroke Association. Life is why.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Getting support from friends online kept me on track.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
Instead of smoking after I ate, I'd get up and take a walk.
I missed having a cigarette in my hand, so I'd hold a pen or a straw, anything.
Until I knew I wouldn't give in to temptation, I spent more time with my friends who didn't smoke.
I went to places that were smoke-free.
I didn't stay quit the very first time I tried.
I kept on trying, and I learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
I quit.
I quit.
I quit.
We did it, so can you.
You can quit. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
Introducing the YMCA. What, you already know the why? Or so you think. Sure, you know the why for a swim, a workout, even a game of hoops. But did you know we're more than that? We're a cause. When you take your jump shot at the why, someone else is getting job training. Take a cardio class, while kids are in an after-school enrichment program. Practice your downward-facing dog as a teen practices her leadership skills. That's the why. We work with people no matter their age, income, or background and give them the opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive, all with one simple goal in mind, to strengthen our community. And we've got so much more that does just that. So while you might think of the Y as that place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. Introducing the Y. We're so much more than a place. We're a cause. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, my name is Jackie Lovezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support the Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
Well, good morning, and see, we do come through. We're having intermittent problems with the tower, as you may suspect. We're digging our way out of this this unbelievable, epic, legendary ice storm that we experienced here in Ulster County. But just to mention to you, anyone who can listen and does hear us, switch over to our online streaming, and you will get the entire program today until we get the tower back up. We're pushing signal out of here, but it's not getting out to you, I don't think, yet, as Lawrence had suggested and mentioned just a little bit earlier. It may happen within seconds, may happen within hours. We don't know yet, okay? So you are listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. 331-9255 is your call-in number. And let's get to the on-air studio with Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker.
All right, good morning. Welcome to this morning's show. Good morning, Ms. Baker.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, today is February 7th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep.
So a week from today is Valentine's Day.
Yes. You ready?
For what?
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I hope everyone made it through this historic storm. Kingston and Ulster County made national news with the severity of this ice storm. And I hope people have their power back. Robin and I wanted to thank all the hardworking people that helped this happen. Everyone from Central Hudson and all the local road crews, working through the night.
The town, the county, the state.
County, yep. Middle of the night, cold, rainy, icy. I know on my road they were certainly working very hard to bring the power up. So if you see them, I think it might be nice to give them a thumbs up.
Absolutely.
Kind of a good job.
Oh, my God, yes. I've seen in my territory quite a few trucks here and there, hither and yon. The damage wasn't done exactly on our street, but it was on McEntee.
Right.
Prior to, broke down our grid, too. So we were out for 2 days and then came on for about 8 hours just to warm the house up, and then it went off again for about 3 or 4 hours, and then it came back on. So we've been lucky.
Yeah. I think it is going to get warmer today, which is kind of a mixed blessing. Certainly it will melt a lot of the ice off of the wires and trees. But let's see, I'm looking at the weather forecast for today.
It goes up to 35,
we're
it
gonna
looks like. 35 you're getting?
Some flurries in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the evening, though, when things get cold again, it will get slick. So people have to be careful out there.
It is one epic winter.
Yeah. Yikes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So welcome to this morning's show. Robin and I will be here until 9 a.m. We did have a guest, but our guest has a fever. So in the times with which we live, we are going to have him back maybe next week. So Robin and I have some wonderful topics to discuss. If anybody wants to call with any comments or questions, our phone number is, I finally have it in my brain, 331-9255. It only took 3 years. I don't know how.
It's taken me 10.
331-9255 with any medical questions, medical comments. So please feel free. If Robin and I could help navigate you through this complicated world of healthcare, that would make our day worthwhile.
Correct. Yes.
So, Robin, I've been there's one subject I've been itching to talk about.
Itching to talk about?
Itching to talk about, yes.
So afraid of what you're about to say.
Well, I've been itching to talk about this topic. It's itching. It's a funny word when you think about it. Itch.
Itch.
Itch and scratch. You and I always talk about onomatopoeia, right? That sounds like
what you're doing.
Yeah, itch. You got an itch. Yeah, that's So we call itching. You know what we call it?
What, medical guys?
Yeah.
What do the medical guys call it?
Pruritus. And why do we say that instead of just saying itching? Because we like to sound smart.
But it probably encompasses a lot of different kinds.
Sure.
And
itching,
I would suspect that's why you use a Greek word.
Yeah, it's just our jargon. For example, we don't say nosebleed, we say epistaxis. Anyway, so pruritus is what we describe it as, and a lot of people have it. This time of year, a lot of people have it.
Dry skin.
Dry skin, winter. It's literally a diagnosis called winter itch, and it has to do with as we get older, our skin doesn't hold moisture as well. And winter being a phenomenally dry time of year, ironic with ice everywhere, but there's not much humidity in the air itself. The skin has a hard time maintaining its moisture, and then kind of gets a little dry, a little cracked, a little fissured, and starts to itch. What's that?
Those little cracks that happen on your fingers.
Oh,
those are the worst.
Yeah.
But that's not about itch. Okay.
Well, but it's in the same category, and it's definitely worthwhile bringing up because I have a lot of patients with that, and it looks painful just looking at it. So, that's a severe form of what used to be called dishpan hands. That's kind of obviously a maybe a little sexist term, right? We all remember the commercial of Madge. I can't believe we even remember her name.
Right, Madge.
Madge.
Yeah, the manicurist.
You're soaking in it.
You're soaking in it.
It's palm olive, I think. You know what?
That's
That's
exactly
amazing
correct,
marketing
yeah.
that we're remembering it 50 years later.
And it cured dishpan hands.
Dan, you just have to get some palm olive.
What, is palm olive a moisturizer or a detergent?
No, palm olive is like Dawn. It's like a dishwashing liquid.
And it helps your hands.
Well, that's what they were saying.
That's quite a claim.
Well, you could just moisturize your hands and do the dishes at the same time.
Oh, look.
O'Keefe's.
Dan has what they call working hands.
That's great, but you got to use it about 8 times a day.
That's right.
Yeah.
We were actually just
really
talking about this the other day because this old-fashioned word came up, which I grew up with, and I don't think it's so weird at all.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, what do you put on your cracked fingers? You put salve.
A salve. Yes, that is kind of a funny term. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But itchiness.
What is salve? That's short for salvation.
Really? Oh gosh. All right. So patients will commonly say that they're itching. And by the way, I can't believe there's a society that is called the International Forum for the Study of Itch. That must be a very uncomfortable lecture hall. But they kind of classify itchiness into 3 categories. That kind of related to the skin itself, or that caused by something internal. Those are 2 categories, category 1 and 2. And then the third category is itchiness that's caused by us, things we do. For example, rubbing. So that's not, ironically, when you scratch something, it makes it worse. The rash will get worse, then it'll itch some more. You'll scratch it some more, and the rash will get worse. What we call that? We call that the itch-scratch cycle. Remember Itchy and Scratchy from the Simpsons?
Right. I mean, if you're itchy, it's very, very difficult not to scratch because you're so uncomfortable.
And so part of the treatment for a lot of these conditions is to stop scratching. If we were dogs, we would put everyone in a cone. But it's hard to figure that out. But actually, in some conditions, I do actually recommend things like gloves or mittens. Even when someone has an itchy condition, they'll do studies filming them while they sleep, and they're itching them all night long. So kind of like some gloves are one of the many things we could do. We have different areas that are affected. Usually the itchiness can be in what's called the flexor surfaces, like the inside of your elbow. When you bend your elbow, that's called flexing your elbow. Or sometimes it's on the opposite side of your elbow, which is called the extensor, the opposite. Does that make sense? Anyway, so what are some main types of itchiness? I think I skipped a page.
Well, the category 1 is that it's on the outside.
Right. So the list is long, but just a couple main types. Something called contact dermatitis. For example, poison ivy is a type of contact dermatitis. That is caused by an allergic reaction that shows up 1, 2, 3 days after you're exposed to it. And then you could have contact dermatitis that is not an allergy per se, but something that's just kind of irritating the skin itself, like a detergent or some sort of chemical that you got on your hands.
That you don't react with very well.
That's right.
So dermatitis, like I know derma is the skin.
Right.
And so this is it titus mean itchy skin, or is this just a...
Yeah. Itis means kind of a condition. A disease, a state that you're in. Pruritus means, the condition of itchiness. Sometimes it means like just inflammation of the skin. So I described it a lot when the term dermatitis is thrown around. Patients, kind of, hey, I was diagnosed with dermatitis. I mean, it's kind of like saying you have a headache. It's just a rather broad category that means in some level you just have inflammation of your skin. All right, so we briefly mentioned contact dermatitis, atopic dermatitis. That's what I was describing before. That's on the inside of your elbows. That's kind of almost like it's almost like an allergic phenomenon, and it's seen more commonly in people who have things like asthma and a lot of allergies. That you see that in kids. They get eczema as well. Thermatophytosis is a fancy word for fungus. So ringworm, for example. Ringworm obviously is not a worm. It kind of looks like a ring and acquired this name of ringworm, so that's followed around. Other fungi that are common are tinea pedis. You know what that is?
Mm-mm.
Tinea pedis is athlete's foot. Or tinea cruris is jock itch. So those are also fungal infections that... cause itchiness. A lot of those conditions, fungi tend to like hot, sweaty areas. So between the toes and the groin, women on the breasts and armpits, these are all between buttocks. These are all kind of common areas to get fungi infections. Most of them are pretty easily treated. Insect bites. I mean, that's kind of obvious, right? You get bit by a mosquito. Other bugs that might cause itchiness if you get bit by them. Fire ants. We don't have fire ants around here.
We don't have a lot of fire ants around here.
It's like a Texas thing.
But we do get mites. I bet you're going to come on to that one.
Yes, mites are coming up. Well, I got a mite right in front of me. I might. All right. We got fire ants, bed bugs, gnats, fleas, chiggers. Those are all infestations that can cause itchiness.
Fleas?
What?
Fleas?
Fleas.
Or otherwise, fleas.
Did I say it wrong?
Fleas.
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 That's good. What's a chigger?
What is a chigger? It's an insect. It is trombiculids. They're just kind of one of the many types of insects that a person can acquire on their skin. And
they probably don't know that they're being called chiggers, though. Well.
Why do these mites and bugs like us? Like, what are they after?
What are they after? By the way, the mites come up kind of in actually three common contexts that you'll hear about mites. For example, the ticks are mites. So whenever we talk about Lyme disease, we're talking about mites or other tick-borne illnesses. Mites, like dust mites, can live in furniture and carpets and cause kind of an allergic reaction. So that would be relevant in someone who's having allergy symptoms. We were talking about allergies in the wintertime. This is when dust mite allergy is more common. People are inside more, windows are closed, things are kind of dustier, so they'll rise to the surface more. But another mite that is worth mentioning is scabies. Scabies is also a infestation that can cause significant itchiness. It's usually seen between the fingers or on the inside of your wrists or in your armpits.
Scabies has a bad reputation. Why is that?
What does?
Scabies.
Well, because
the connotation is that you're... Right?
Yeah, it's kind of because there's a pejorative reaction to the diagnosis of scabies, that you've done something wrong, that you're dirty, that you don't take care of yourself or your kids.
Is it contagious?
No, not really. I mean, on the technical definition of contagious, no. Contagious means, oh gosh, you can get scabies from someone else, yes, but it's not like catching a cold. You could be in close contact with someone and then acquire it. That's one of the reasons why kids kind of get it, because they do things, in normal times. They kind of wrestle each other and roll around on the ground.
In the ground and in sand and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How can you differentiate that from something like poison ivy? You can't get poison ivy from someone else who has poison ivy, can you?
That's a good point, and it's kind of hard to explain sometimes. But poison ivy is not an infection, so unless it's an infection of some sort, it's not really contagious like that. However, poison ivy is caused by an oil. Okay, so if you're out gardening, Robin, and you come inside and you got that oil in your hands and you haven't washed your hands yet, and you kind of shake hands with me because that's the way we greet each other. And you can now have given the oil to me, and then maybe I can get poison ivy. It happens a lot with pets. Dogs go through the woods, and they, kind of gets on their fur, and then the people kind of pet their dogs and hunt their dogs, and you can get poison ivy from your pets.
Okay, so you can't, so if were in contact with someone who had scabies, the other things that are contagious, like lice is contagious.
Well, lice is on the list, too. Lice is an insect. And difference between a mite and an insect or arachnid. This is really boring stuff.
Because they have different body parts and legs, right?
Right. So insects have like an ant, have 3 body parts and 6 legs, whereas arachnids have 2 body parts and 8 legs.
And a tick
is an arachnid.
And lice is
an insect. I don't know. That's very technical. We don't need to get involved with that. But it's kind of like 8th grade biology.
Interesting.
Yeah. So those are the bites that cause the itchiness. Psoriasis is a common condition. Have you got psoriasis?
No, you said it's eczema.
Eczema is kind of like dermatitis. It's a description that means your skin is inflamed. So the issue is really what type of eczema. And in a way, these are all types of eczema. Eczema from allergy, eczema from contact dermatitis. But psoriasis is kind of a reactionary type condition. This psoriasis tends to occur at the elbows and the knees.
Oh, really?
What's that?
Yes, my doctor diagnosed little spots, especially on my legs, my lower legs, my calves, the back of my legs and stuff like that. Just little spots.
So that would be a category 2, right? That's an internal.
No, that would be category 1. That's a disease of the skin.
Yeah, but the treatment he's giving me works well.
Okay.
Which is a steroid salve.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But it's interesting. It must present itself in many different ways, and that helps you to categorize what kind of dermatitis it is.
Right. And when a patient presents to me or to a dermatologist, it's pretty common for people to go to their primary care provider with dermatologic conditions. Right. We want to know the symptoms. We want to know the onset. We want to know the distribution. It's very common. So again, psoriasis typically is on your outside of your elbows, the outside of your knees, as opposed to the allergic dermatitis tends to be on the inside of your elbows. Psoriasis, very dry, scaly, flaky. Kind of looks almost as silvery sometimes, like a patch, and well-defined, and it can be itchy. It tends to show up sometimes at areas of skin injury, like if you cut your leg, you might get a psoriasis outbreak. A couple other things mentioning that are specific, to the skin itself, which is urticaria, which is a fancy word for, you want to guess?
Mm-mm.
No guesses.
Urticaria.
This is like Great Karnak.
Oh, I think it must have something to do with your face.
Okay, that's a good guess. Couldn't hurt. But urticaria is our hives. So and that's kind of an allergic reaction as well. Hives, by definition, kind of come and go, and they're very itchy. Sometimes I describe them to patients as mosquito bites from the inside, because that's almost what they look like sometimes. You know, you ever see a bug bite or a horsefly bite that really kind of welts up, you know, for a while after it happens, kind of raised, red, kind of, elevated. And finally, the most, what I think is probably the most common condition on this list, these are conditions specific to the skin, xerosis with an X. That's a very fancy word for dryness. So in a way, we've already talked about that as winter itch. And that actually amazingly brings us to our first break.
Absolutely does. Thank you, Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stanberg, for bringing us through to 7:30. And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. And it's Monday, February 7th, 23 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. We'll be right back after these messages.
Is what carbon monoxide sounds like. Nothing. You can't see it or smell it either. That's why it's so dangerous. But you can protect yourself. Use carbon monoxide detectors. Have your home's heating system regularly inspected by a trained technician. Keep chimneys and flues free of debris. Never use a generator or grill or idle a vehicle in an enclosed area. And review life-saving carbon monoxide safety information at centralhudson.com.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. We are a global force for good. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. We can do more together than we can alone. Join in. Experience the joy of serving. Be part of the movement. Give back. Let's unite the world for good. We are Lions. You can be too. Visit weserve.org.
Hi, this is Dina Roy from Hurley, and I support the Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
Thank you for being with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Central Hudson. And thank you, Central Hudson, for all that you're doing right now. Major service. You're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio. It's Monday, February 7th, and 23 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. A little bit about the weather for the next 3 days. Cloudy this morning with periods of light rain and snow this afternoon. Areas of freezing rain possible. Can we believe it? High of 36. Tonight, 27 is our low. Be overcast with a few flurries or snow showers possible. Tuesday, intervals of clouds and sunshine, a high of 42. And Tuesday night, clear skies with a low of 18. And Wednesday, sunshine and some clouds, a high of 44. Thank you. And Wednesday night, a low of 28, partly cloudy early with increasing clouds overnight. And let's get back to the on-air studio with Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stanberg. Welcome back.
Okay, Robin. Good morning. Welcome to the second half hour of this morning's show. We are talking about itchiness.
I know it's really getting to me, so maybe we could get to the treatments because
I know you're starting to itch.
You're making me itch.
Well, it's getting under your skin.
Yes.
A little bit. All right, so we talked about some major categories of skin conditions that are specific to the skin. Now we're going to talk about problems on the inside that can maybe cause a symptom of itchiness. And the list is long for this as well. But when a patient presents to me with itchiness, and I can't, it's kind of generalized itchiness, it troubles me a little bit because there are unfortunately some rather serious things that need to be considered. If there's a problem with the liver, for example, this chemical called bilirubin will accumulate in your body, and it can make you turn yellow, jaundice, to make your eyes yellow. That's called icterus. These are all fancy words. But that can be kind of a sign of a serious problem, unfortunately. So anyway, some common conditions that I looked up, anemia, low iron, for example, but liver problems, as I was just kind of mentioning, cirrhosis of the liver, just kind of a blockage of the liver. Unfortunately, scary things like when pancreatic cancer presents, it can block the liver and then cause it to back up, and patient can start to develop itchiness. So that's, we're getting into the realm of scary stuff. Shingles is an interesting condition. They're classifying it as a category 2, an internal disease that has a itchy manifestation. And if you understand what shingles is, it's a reactivation of the chickenpox virus, and it lives in you, so it's kind of reactivating in a way that winds up on your skin. HIV can cause itchiness. Parasites, such as Giardia, can cause itchiness. Have you heard of Giardia?
It's not in the Lyme family?
No. Sometimes I joke that it sounds like an airport in New York, but Giardia is a parasite. And now, how do we define parasite? Because in a way, anything that kind of lives off of you, in a way that kind of coexists. In other words, you can have it a long time. But doesn't give you anything back, is a parasite. For example, we have bacteria that lives in our gut, but that bacteria kind of helps us, and we help it because it kind of continues to live and it helps us digest. So that's a symbiotic relationship. It goes two ways, as opposed to a parasitic relationship, which kind of just goes one way. So bacteria, are they parasites? If they cause disease, something's going to happen. Either the bacteria is going to get eradicated or you're going to get eradicated. We were talking about that in the context of COVID. Does a virus kind of want to morph into a condition that just kind of exists? We're kind of getting a little philosophical about this and trying to wonder if a virus even has a
goal.
A goal, right? So parasites are things that you can have for a long time. Giardia is something that's usually seen in fresh water supplies, wells that aren't dug properly. And by the way, which is not really seen anymore. When people have wells done by trained professionals, they're deep enough where the parasite can't live down that far. So that's just something to understand. But before we were kind of aware of these things, it was pretty common for wells to be dug and homes around this area, going back to the 1800s or whatever, and cause Giardia. So you'll have mild symptoms of Giardia. Maybe some diarrhea, maybe some cramping, but for the most part, you'll get by. So anyway, that's sort of why Giardia is classified as a parasite. The other thing that makes it classified as a parasite is it's unlike bacteria. By definition, bacteria are only one cell, unicellular, whereas parasites, Giardia is a couple cells. I don't know, I think 4 or whatever. Is that interesting?
Yeah.
All right. So other causes, we talked about the possibility of tumors, unfortunately. Things with the blood can cause itchiness, blood products of leukemias, lymphomas, a common disease like diabetes, because diabetes really affects everything. It also affects the skin. It can cause itchiness. Thyroid disorders are a very common cause of itchiness. There's interesting rashes that pregnant women can get. There's one of them is called PUPS. And that stands for pruritic, itchy, urticarial, hives, papules, and plaques of pregnancy, kind of like pimples and little welts of pregnancy. I don't know. So that's a common, it's actually probably not that common, but it's if a pregnant woman can get kind of itchy as well. There's a couple other causes of that. Medications can kind of cause itchiness, so that's always important to review the medications. Antibiotics can do it, even something like penicillin. A lot of blood pressure medications can do it, like these things called ACE inhibitors. One common medication that causes itchiness as a side effect are opioids. It's always important to review your medications. That's one of the things I always say to my patients. It's when the patient comes in, my nurse reviews the meds, but I usually review the meds too, because it's just very important that that we reestablish that.
So exactly what is happening when you feel itchy? I mean, this is your nervous system, right? Reacting,
well, it's
causing you
things.
this.
Yeah, that's interesting. What does that mean? It can be a kind of an itchiness, like it's almost like sometimes more like a form of pain in a way. If like your skin is inflamed and like a bite. It's inflamed, and itchiness is one of the many symptoms. It has to do with histamine and some other chemicals that get released. That's sort of what hives are. Hives are kind of a outburst of histamine throughout the body.
So your body's trying to fight something?
Mm-hmm. So what do we do if someone has itchiness? All right, we do a good history, we do a good exam. If it looks like it's something common like psoriasis that atopic dermatitis, which is kind of like the eczema of your elbows, you treat it. Treatment is usually emollients, which are moisturizers, steroids, topical steroids, and control the itchiness. So we do that with antihistamines. Antihistamines could be things like diphenhydramine, which is also Benadryl, or it could be things like Claritin, known as loratadine. And sometimes I recommend both. Loratadine probably doesn't work as much with the itchiness, but it's better tolerated, really doesn't cause fatigue, kind of lasts longer. Whereas Benadryl works pretty good with the itchiness, but it makes people pretty tired. And it's also a 6 to 8 hour medication. So if someone really can't make it through the night, they're itching so much, there might be reason, I'll recommend to take maybe Claritin in the day and Benadryl at night.
So you're saying the Claritin and the Benadryl is being used topically?
No, I'm sorry to not make that clear. Those are oral. There are topical forms of this. Caladryl is kind of a calamine with some Benadryl.
Really, and the Benadryl and the Claritin is good for your external skin itching.
Yeah, controls the itchiness.
Wow,
so then you don't scratch it so much.
Incredible! I've never heard of that. Okay, that's a cool prescription.
The topical medicine, Caladryl, people study that. The Benadryl really doesn't get absorbed that much through the skin. And remember, the histamine is kind of being released from your body itself. So I'm not so sure that works, but it doesn't hurt you. It has calamine in it. Calamine is an old treatment. It's a cream. It's soothing. It helps relieve itchiness and helps the skin heal. It's not a steroid. It's just kind of an old I don't know, summer camp treatment.
Well, there's a rule of thumb, too. If something's dry, you want to treat it with...
Yeah. It's funny because Seinfeld has a joke about dermatologists where he says it's a whole branch of medicine based on the idea of, just put some aloe on it. But they have some very basic principles of dermatology. One is if it's wet, you dry it, and if it's dry, you wet it. It's pretty simple.
Pretty complicated.
And so you look at the rash. Does it look moist and goopy, or does it look kind of dry and flaky? Psoriasis is dry and flaky. The eczema or dermatitis that can occur inside your elbows is usually kind of moist appearing. So a cornerstone of treatment for dermatology for rashes are topical steroids. There's many of these, and they vary in potency. There's topical hydrocortisone, topical triamcinolone, fluocinolone. I mean, I can come up with a bunch of other names. So the potency.
How can you remember them?
I do it every day.
Yeah.
The potency is very important.
Important.
Yeah, I made a little joke.
Yeah.
So you see, you have mild steroids, mild potency, moderate, and high potency. Because topical steroids do have some side effects. They can kind of affect the skin, cause kind of a white patch, or the skin to get kind of thinned out, and ironically, in that way, cause a little itchiness. So you have to use steroids very responsibly.
Risk versus benefit.
We use the word judicious. You have to use them judiciously. And not only is it a steroid, but the vehicle is very important. The vehicle means how are you administering it. So the vehicle is used to describe, is it a cream, an ointment, or a lotion? So creams like calamine that we just said are very drying. So they're good for moist rashes, whereas ointments are moisturizing and they're good for dry rashes. Problem with the ointments, though, is they're a little goopy. Somewhere in the middle, you have lotion. I prescribe a lot of hydrocortisone, 2.5% lotion. Over the counter, you can get hydrocortisone, but the potency is 0.5 or 1%. So the prescription strength is more potent. And I just find, when I work with residents, I just find that as a topical treatment that usually works pretty well. And you're not really going to get in trouble with that, because it's not that potent. So that's what I prescribe a lot of. if someone has itchiness and I can't figure out what the cause is, I'll do some blood work. Basic labs, CBC, make sure they're not anemic, make sure you don't see something scary like leukemia. A metabolic profile is very important because part of that will be liver enzymes. If someone does, for example, have blockage in their liver, their labs will be abnormal. Thyroid testing. Thyroid testing can be frustrating because Medicare limits the diagnoses that you can check thyroid for. And it's frustrating because some clearly, agreed, for example, heart failure can be caused by, or at least exacerbated by a thyroid problem. But if I order a thyroid test and just attach it to a diagnosis of CHF, Medicare won't cover it. It gets very frustrating. And it's frustrating, when you take a step back and you're kind of like, is this really what's breaking the Medicare budget? I'm checking this person's thyroid. I mean, it's a very frustrating concept. B12 levels, we're like, is this really what's, affecting it? It's just a weird thing to kind of like crack down on.
So I know this is kind of an aside, but if the doctor does order this blood work and you get there to get your blood work done, and usually the technician hopefully will catch it, that it's not covered because they're going to run those. The lab wants to make sure they're going to get paid. And so they'll usually run that and they'll inform the patient whether or not something's going to be covered or not. I mean, do you not get the blood work done? I mean, what?
That's a good point because these are the Medicare rules. They'll only cover a test, a lab test, for example, if they agree it's medically indicated. So is it attached to a diagnosis that they agree with? For example, if someone has diabetes and that's the diagnosis, they'll cover that. If we don't know if someone has diabetes, we want to run some tests, it gets complicated. And Medicare requires that patients be informed before something's done that it may not be covered and therefore agree to pay. And they have to sign a paper. Remember the name of that paper? ABN.
Advanced Beneficiary Notice.
Right. So the lab, for example, was really technically in the Medicare rules. If they draw a lab and Medicare doesn't agree with the diagnosis, it won't get covered. If they did not make that patient sign an ABN, they can't bill the patient. So sometimes they overreact and they make patients sign ABNs for everything. And that scares patients into thinking that, they're going to get a huge bill and therefore they don't get their blood work done. I go to great efforts to make sure everything is coded correctly when I order testing. So every now and then, and we've talked about this, Medicare does move the bar. The great example was vitamin B12 testing. I used to order that a lot for fatigue because B12 deficiency will cause fatigue, and Medicare decided that wasn't a good diagnosis, like overnight. This was 3 or 4 years ago. They'll cover it for memory impairment, and they'll cover it for gait instability. I'm acting it out a little bit here. So I'll have to,
Yeah, and it's important for the listening audience to understand that, when you call the office and you're like, the lab said the doctor didn't send in the right code.
Yeah.
Like the doctor doesn't know what code. But the truth is that Medicare can just change their...
it's complicated.
Right. Their mind, and something they used to cover, they don't cover anymore. And the doctor also cannot change a diagnosis to make it work for the lab if the patient doesn't have the
but you
condition.
Can't be fraudulent. You can't.
Correct.
You can't make up a diagnosis to cover a test. If I attach B12 to fatigue and they're not covering it, but hey, the patient is having some memory impairment, I can then attach it to the code of memory impairment and they'll cover it. But I can't do that if they're not having memory impairment because that becomes fraudulent. I'm running into this problem with diabetes screening. Many experts, diabetic societies, endocrine societies, feel that patients should get an A1C as a screen. But Medicare kind of sort of covers it, but doesn't really cover it. I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. They'll cover it, but you have to have risk factors like high blood pressure, maybe obesity. So you really have to attach all these codes to just ordering an A1C. It's very complicated, and it's very frustrating. And it's so unnecessary. I wish they would just say, we're covering it. They could say every 2 years if they want. We'll do it every 2 years. But we're trying to pick up on pre-diabetes early to counsel people so they don't progress to full diabetes, so on and so forth. So that's aggravating.
Yeah, they just want your doctors to be doing more labs than you should.
I'm just such a blip on the radar with my primary care practice and, this nation of 330 million people. I really have a hard time feeling that my, ordering a B12 level here and there or an A1C here and there is breaking the Medicare bank. I think quite the opposite. We're picking up on problems that, if picked up early, can be kind of treatable. If an elderly person has low B12 and we diagnose and start treating it, that's good. If we never check them and then they develop unsteady gait and they fall and break their hip, look at the big picture there. That Medicare not wanting to cover that B12 level versus now having to pay for who knows what, a hip replacement, hip repair, hospitalization, rehab. It's just looking at that big picture. It just doesn't make sense.
Right. Gotcha.
Frustrating.
Yeah. Okay, back to treatments.
Back to treatment. So the cornerstones of treatment of dermatologic conditions. First of all, rule out, if necessary, an internal problem. And if it is an internal problem, that needs to be addressed. If it is caused by a medication, then that medication should be avoided. That's pretty simple, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But if it seems to be purely a dermatologic condition, the treatments are usually emollients, which is a way to kind of encourage the skin to be repaired. And steroids, properly and judiciously prescribed, topical, and then antihistamines to control the itchiness. And we talked about Benadryl versus Claritin, and sometimes I prescribe both. We do sometimes prescribe oral steroids. Poison ivy, if it's severe, we'll prescribe oral steroids for. Because you can get, oral steroids, we kind of want to avoid them in the long run. But we do it sometimes. And I think that sums it up. I don't think I missed anything. What do you think, Robin?
You ever
learn something?
You get itchiness from vascular problems, like if you have
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So she's talking about if you maybe have a circulation problem in your legs, which is very common. So you remember you have circulation is our arteries that deliver blood and veins that return the blood. And you also have these things that run next to the veins that are called lymphatics. They're actually little alternative tunnels to also encourage drainage of fluid and other products. So when people have arterial problems, that's a different topic. The leg won't swell because you have an arterial problem, because the blood's not getting delivered properly. That's a different topic. But with the blood returning, a lot of people have swelling in their legs, and that's called different things sometimes. Sometimes it's called venous insufficiency. So because the veins are, it's amazing. Veins are almost like the locks over in High Falls. Where you kind of, the whole idea of a canal was you push the water this far, then you stop it, So veins are kind of like that too. They're trying to drain, then there's a valve. Then they drain more, and then there's a valve. But over time, those valves become incompetent and stop working, and the person will start experiencing swelling in their legs. At the same time, the lymphs also stop working so well, and that will cause, sometimes that's called lymphedema. So I said venous insufficiency, lymphedema, and the end result of those things is things accumulate that should be emptying, so therefore they become inflammatory. They can get itchy and red and hot and uncomfortable. That's called stasis dermatitis because it's inflammation of the skin caused by fluid not draining.
Usually occurs around your ankles and your feet.
Yeah, lower extremity. Right. We're usually talking about lower extremity stasis. A very common problem, by the way. And it's more common as we get older. And it's not that easy to treat. If the fluid is kind of stuck in your legs, a water pill is probably not going to help that much because water pills work at the level of the kidneys. So unless that fluid gets to the kidneys.
What about certain kinds of physical therapy? And,
yes.
It sounds like that is a gravity thing to some extent. And a physical therapy regimen probably could help a lot.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
No, absolutely. So first of all, prevention of this is, low salt. Salt encourages fluid retention. That might help. Good socks, are very important, especially as we get older. Knee-high socks. You kind of get what you pay for with socks. You want to, good high-quality brand that kind of contracts things a little bit and keeps it kind of more enclosed so it doesn't accumulate.
So you're suggesting a compression sock?
Yeah.
And that is quite a science. Yep. That's quite a science. If you go to Nico's, for instance, there's a therapist there that will set you up with the proper amount of compression, the proper sizes and things like that. It's pretty and it's quite a science. That's all I can say.
It's
quite
you're
a science,
right.
the kinds of compression socks that you can use if you're on your feet all day and that kind of a thing.
Athletes use them, runners, things like that, people who are, kind of pounding their legs, and they say it's good for that. They even good for flying on a plane when you're not going to be standing up for long periods of time.
Right, and then you're also that's a kind of a slightly different topic, which is the preventing getting a clot in your legs. All right, so we talked about stockings, the milking. The people who guard Buckingham Palace are almost trained as part of their training to be working their calves while they're standing there because they're promoting the circulation. So then they don't, all these clips of the guy at Buckingham Palace, all of a sudden going, because, so that's part of their training. But that milking of your calf muscles, so exercise is good. But if you have a problem with fluid retention when you're at rest, elevation. One of our problems, one of the reasons it is becoming so common is where most of us are sedentary, and not by fault. We have jobs that are sedentary. So that in a way that also is something that because you're not going to milk your calves while you're sitting. If you're standing, you kind of will.
So what do you mean by milking? You mean by squeezing and letting go and squeezing and letting go. So
walking is milking your calves. You're promoting blood flow to kind of get down there and come back.
So if I do 6 miles on a normal shift at Lake Canard, I'm milking my calves.
Yes, I think you'll be
pretty
fine.
much.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, how's Lake Canard looking for Valentine's Day reservations?
Go for it.
All right.
Please do it now.
All right.
It is filling in. It's just next week, so please, definitely.
Not sure who I'm going to bring.
It's up in the air.
Okay.
Robin, you want to go?
I think it's one of the three of us.
I have a gift certificate in my.
I know, but I feel cheesy using the gift certificate on Valentine's Day.
Somebody gave it to you.
That's the one the patient gave to me?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was looking for that.
That is wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, definitely.
So
Bring it
sweet.
in. Bring it in. No, it's perfectly apropos.
And I'm
You can
gonna
make it up in the tip.
I'm going to get some roses, but I'm on a budget, so only 7 or 8 roses.
That's fine.
All right. We can go to break now if you want to just change
we're okay.
change gears.
I hope this was helpful. It's lengthy, But
everybody I think has experienced different
briefly,
rashes.
We do have some time left, but you
allergies
talked about
too. We haven't even talked about.
And we did that condition in the hands, though, is very common,
Yeah.
especially in winter. We're rubbing. We're told to wash our hands a lot, which is good. We have to wash our hands, but that's rubbing and that fissuring in your fingertips or whatever. That's I just call that hand eczema. Another form. It's kind of a variation of dishpan hands, and the treatment is kind of the same. It's a moisturizing and what I call aggressive moisturizing. Right.
Now, what does this have in it? This is just one kind. Glycerin, stearic acid, sodium hydroxide, dimethicone, paraffin. They're all moisturizing.
Wax.
Yeah, they're all moisturizing ingredients.
I caution people against Vaseline. Vaseline is a moisturizer, but it's too good. It actually clogs your pores.
Okay.
Vaseline Intensive Care is a product that's meant to be for moisturizing. So Vaseline is, again, it's I'm not going to say never, but there are generally it's something to not overuse.
Right, and after the break, maybe we could talk about treatments for those mites. Well, maybe we might talk about treatments for mites.
Oh, such a
what, the scabies?
Yes, or the lice.
Yeah,
or the,
I remember having scabies.
Yikes.
Sleeping on beaches in the Great Lakes, and obviously gorgeous, but we did get scabies, and the treatment was Vaseline.
Interesting.
Because it suffocated them.
We have better treatments.
Probably true. Okay. All right. Thank you. Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker, many, many thanks for being with us today. And you are listening to Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Monday, February 7th, and 23 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. And this last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Central Hudson. Let's listen.
This is what carbon monoxide sounds like. Nothing. You can't see it or smell it either. That's why it's so dangerous. But you can protect yourself. Use carbon monoxide detectors. Have your home's heating system regularly inspected by a trained technician. Keep chimneys and flues free of debris. Never use a generator or grill, or idle a vehicle in an enclosed area. And review life-saving carbon monoxide safety information at centralhudson.com.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. We are a global force for good. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. We can do more together than we can alone. Join in. Experience the joy of serving. Be part of the movement. Give back. Let's unite the world for good. We are Lions. You can be too. Visit weserve.org.
Hi, this is Dina Roy from Hurley, and I support the Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And we're back, and thank you for being with us here at KCR. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Herzog's. And stop by Herzog's Home and Paint Center in the Kingston Plaza for all of your home building, maintenance, and painting needs, and discover the difference of buying local. And visit herzogs.com for ongoing sales. And they are there. Some great sales. And many thanks to Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker for bringing us through to the 8 o'clock hour. And just a little bit about the weather, which is kind of important these days. We're going to have a high of 36, cloudy this morning with periods of light rain and snow this afternoon. Areas of freezing rain possible, a high of 36 again. And chance of precipitation is 50%. Monday night, overcast, a few flurries or snow showers possible tonight with a low of 27. And Tuesday, intervals of clouds and sunshine with a high of 42. And Tuesday night, clear skies, a low of 18. And Wednesday, sunshine and some clouds with a high of 44 degrees on Wednesday, yay. And partly cloudy early with increasing clouds overnight on Wednesday night with a low of 28. And let's get back to the on-air studio for all our festivities at the 8 o'clock moment.
Here we are. Let the festivities commence. Dan, we actually, in our birthday folder, we have stuff nothing from the 7th, but we have something from the 5th and the 6th. Are we supposed to announce these?
Oh, you know why? Because please do, because those are valid. First of all, they're extremely valid. And because of the ice storm, we were not on air on Friday.
This is the 5th,
So-
and this is Saturday and Sunday.
Right. On Friday, we always do Saturday and Sunday too, of course.
I never knew
yeah.
that.
Yeah, we do 3 days on
Okay.
on Friday.
There's no one for Friday.
So thank you very, very much for running these down and showing the winners for the Boyce Dairy Milkhouse cow pie.
Sure.
For the previous days. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll do the one for Saturday, February 5th. There were 2 people. First of all, I wanted to wish a happy birthday to Newton Madison. This is from Saturday, February 5th, from your friends at the Wellness and Healthy Lifestyle Club, and also wife Jenny. So happy birthday, Newton Madison. And also a happy birthday to Bobby Meredith. Have a wonderful day. Bless you. That's signed. So I'm not sure who gave this, but the winner on the winner on Saturday was Bobby Meredith. So congratulations, Bobby. Go pick up your...
Bobby Meredith, right?
Okay, and then we have another birthday for Sunday, February 6th. This one says, happy birthday to Stephen Berardi from your 5 younger brothers and sisters.
We're not on the air, but please.
And this is the well wishes from William F. Berardi, CPA, and Berardi, Godstein, and Miller, CPAs. Happy Sunday, February 6th. Happy birthday to Stephen Berardi, and you're also the winner of the famous cow pie.
I think Stephen Berardi has many people to share that cow pie with.
So head over to the Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, and claim your prize. All right. And if your birthday is today, but you didn't submit anything, happy birthday today. And don't hesitate to send in these birthdays. They're very happy to give away this fun prize.
So we have been talking about itchiness, and Robin wanted to discuss a little bit more about how to treat mites. So we're talking about scabies. Scabies are mites. They are arachnids. They burrow under your skin, and they actually trigger an allergic reaction. And because the allergic reaction occurs, it's very itchy. And people can have scabies a long time. Sometimes it's called the 7-year itch, literally. But these mites are susceptible to topical treatments. And what's used commonly is something called permethrin, sometimes called Rid. We used to use a product called Lindane. It was a good product, but it had started to develop some side effects. Even caused some seizures, believe it or not. So we don't use that anymore. Permethrin, and I believe even ivermectin is on the list of potential treatments for severe cases of scabies. And a couple things about scabies. Household members probably should be treated. So how do you do it? I usually say, on a given night, take a nice shower. After the shower, and change your sheets. Apply the permethrin to your body, up to your neck. For some reason, scabies does not go into your head, with the exception of infants. Infants, it can affect their heads. It's weird. And you apply the treatment, and then you sleep like that. In the morning, you wash it off. And then maybe you want to change your sheets again. And then I usually recommend a second treatment in a week. Just to kind of make sure you didn't miss anything. And that's really it. Now, because it's an allergic reaction, even though that treatment will kill the mite, it will still kind of live in your skin for a while. So it takes a little bit longer for the itchiness to go away. And you have to just kind of be a little patient with it. But it can be a frustrating condition. So that's really scabies. Okay?
Yep. So what about those other types of common, mite-like creatures, like lice or...
Lice is treated with almost like a shampoo product of permethrin. you really don't need to cut the hair. I mean, you just, I know they would do that. Your boys, would get lice and they would just kind of get their hair all cut off. And, it's kind of one way to do it. But then they never cut the hair off of the girls and they got lice too. So you don't have to cut off the hair. An interesting aside is that the American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend that children with lice be kept out of school. That kind of goes against what we have been doing for decades. But the idea is it's really not that contagious from one person to another, and they're worried about the stigmatizing, and it's true, and the stigmatizing is there, and even the medical professionals can not be the kind. I don't think necessarily they're being intentionally unkind, but the connotation that if you have lice, therefore you are poor and have poor hygiene, and it's a fault of your parents and things like that.
Not true, right?
So that's really, really lice. I mean, another controversial thing about lice is you have to comb all the nits out, Well, so nits are eggs. And they really attach to the hair with a glue. So kind of, how do you tell the difference between nits and just a little schmutz in the hair? A little, the dandruff, or a little, kids are always rolling around getting a little dirt in their hair. Well, if you pluck a hair out, and if you can't take that nit off, it's probably lice. But they're eggs, and the treatment will kind of kill the eggs. And plus, as the eggs grow longer down the hair, they become less viable. But, if you want to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, we all know that's where the phrase comes from, to get rid of it.
Are there any, mites that are sexually transmitted?
They're not mites. There's lice. Yeah, right. So you said lice or mites?
Right, I'm not sure, so.
Well, you can have lice. Generally, wherever there's hair, you could potentially have lice, because that's what they do. They lay their eggs and attaches to hair. So obviously in our hair, but other parts of our body also might have it. There's body lice, and yes, it can be in the genital region, and it's called pubic lice. And the treatment's the same, though. And, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to segue over to talking about a little bit about treatment of opioid disorders. It's a topic we haven't visited in recent. I can't remember the last time we discussed it, but we're still trying to actively treat this problem that we're having. It's my belief that opioid addiction is a medical problem. It's a disease. It should be treated like a disease. How you got there doesn't really matter in the treatment of the disease. For example, it doesn't. If someone smokes and develops lung cancer, lecturing them endlessly on why they should not have smoked does not really help the situation. So, likewise, if someone becomes addicted to opioids, to blame them and attack them doesn't help the treatment either. Plus, how they wound up there is very complicated. People develop opioid disorders for different reasons. And there's a lot of, in the psychology world, there's a lot of talk about ACE. You know what ACE stands for? ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, really kind of unresolved internal issues that therefore might lead someone to self-medicate their emotional state. And, it could be with alcohol or any other potentially addicting substances like opioids. So that's something that should be part of the treatment. And when I treat people with opioid disorders, I do encourage them to engage in active therapy to continue to explore this. It's really my opinion, and I guess it's a little controversial because people might disagree with me. But I think if you have an opioid addiction, it really is a problem you'll have for life. And, I guess the phrase is monkey on your back. You'll have a monkey on your back for the rest of your life. And I really think most people with opioid addiction really need to be on medication long term. Whenever I hear a story about someone who had a problem with opioids and is now clean and they're doing great and not on anything, and I'm happy for that person to a point, but in part of my brain I'm very worried about when the shoe is going to drop and when the relapse occurs. And when people relapse, they relapse hard. They usually because they've not been using the opioids, they're now not used to it. We call that opioid naive, and they go out and maybe use the same quantity that they used when they were regularly using. And that's when a lot of overdoses occur. Very common when people come out of prison, when people come out of even in rehab, because they go to rehab, they're doing fine, they get discharged home, and then, if there's not an adequate discharge plan in place, both psychologically and medically, they'll relapse. They'll relapse hard. So that's something we're trying to prevent. The goal of treatment is to minimize any potential danger. So,
how is hypnosis treatments working for that?
I don't understand hypnosis. If it works, that's fine. I think there's. I don't want to say all people with an opioid addiction need to be on medication forever. I mean, maybe I'm sure there are examples of people who got clean and stayed clean, and putting clean in quotes, and maybe they did use other treatments like hypnosis or acupuncture or just spiritual training. By the way, it's also involves a lot of support. That's kind of the idea of the meeting, so to speak. Or if people choose, a spiritual side of their to help them get over it, regular involvement in their church or other religious establishment. So why am I bringing this up? I just still think there's a lot of people in our community who are not treated for this for various reasons. I want people listening, if they themselves might have a problem or if they know someone, to encourage them to get treatment. And we have about 45 patients on Suboxone in my practice, and most of them are doing great. There's a few that still kind of struggle with other substance abuse, but they're all better off on the medication than not on the medication. Does that make sense?
What do you say to proponents or opponents who think that sometimes people would just sell this medication?
Yeah, that's a good point. So we're talking about diversion. That I'm not happy with that. And it is challenging sometimes. If I give someone a certain dose, most of the time, and when I see them, we almost always do a urine check as part of the treatment, and most of the time, they have it in their urine, but sometimes they don't have as much as they should. So I do worry and wonder about diversion. That being said, my colleague, Dr. Maya Hambright, who works in the Kingston office, and she really does this exclusively as her practice. If there's Suboxone on the street, that's also going to kind of prevent overdoses and fatalities. And most people with opioid addiction, their motivation is not so much to get high; it's to not go into withdrawal. So I listened and said, okay, I'm not happy with that in a way, but I wish people were not taking Suboxone from the street. I wish they were making an appointment with myself or Dr. Hambright or other prescribers in the community and having it done. Plus, be a lot cheaper for them, because whatever the street price is, it's a lot of money.
Oh, Dr. Hambright has been on air with us. Yes.
We've had her on a couple times, and maybe we're due to have her on again. I'll talk, I only see her every day, so I'll talk to her about that. But a couple of the misconceptions about or things that people might say to minimize Suboxone treatment. when someone's not doing well in Suboxone, there's usually two concerns. One is the dose may not be high enough, so they're still having cravings, and they kind of put pressure on themselves or external pressures like from family or friends to get off of it because, hey, you're still on it, so you're not really over it, And actually, meetings can sometimes endorse this no treatment philosophy. About Narcotics Anonymous can sometimes send a mixed message about whether or not someone should be on treatment or not. We should review how something like Suboxone works. Now, Suboxone's a brand, and the generic is buprenorphine, but it also has naloxone in it. Naloxone is Narcan. What does Narcan do? It reverses opioid overdoses abruptly. There's a big push to have households have nasal Narcan, which is very easy to administer. If you give Narcan to someone who is not on opioids, or doesn't have any opioids in their system, nothing's going to happen. Anyway, so the brand of Suboxone has buprenorphine and naloxone in it, and that's to prevent. Naloxone does not get absorbed orally, so it doesn't affect anything if you take it orally, but it's to prevent people from injecting it, which is theoretically possible. So Suboxone is an opioid. It's a very long-acting opioid. It occupies the receptors. Oh, we have a caller. We'll go over to that. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, good. I can't. You're coming in very faint. However, I'm okay, surviving. The storm and all that.
Sure.
But I wanted to call this morning because I want your listeners, and I hope there's a lot out there because I heard that the signal isn't really reaching out. But I do want to say that we need to contact certain people in Albany because there is a plan to circumvent the legislature to make certain regulations, put certain regulations in place. And I'll be specific here. And the deadline to do this, by the way, is February 14th. So we only have this week to contact. And the agencies that it involves is the New York State Health Department and also the New York State Department of Education. And the plans that Kathy Hochul has in mind, and actually she has them, all set, and it's just waiting public comment, is to make face coverings mandatory, and also to, in terms of isolation and quarantining, the health department, through, the governor through the health department would have the ability to isolate and to quarantine people, that individuals or groups of people is the way it's written, who is considered a public health risk. And it's not just quarantining in the homes. It actually covers quarantining in other places, which the regulation does not, as written, does not specify where that is. In addition to that, these these regulations would make visits to the nursing homes much more difficult, and also it would give the authority to school nurses to vaccinate children. So the number to call, actually, a person who is in charge of reviewing all the comments is a senator named Cynthia Felder, Felder. He's going to be reviewing all the comments, and his phone number is 718-253-2015. February 14th is the day, and let me repeat that phone number in case anybody's writing it down. It's 718-253-2015. And also the Commissioner of Education is Betty Rosa, and her number is 518-474-3852. I'll repeat it. 518-474-3852. It's also important just to get the word out so that people know that this is coming. Whoever's listening, contact even your county legislatures. Ask them to advocate on your behalf. I think this is an extremely dangerous policy.
You think it goes too far?
Say again, please.
You think it's too draconian? It goes too far, and it's too what's the word? The idea that implying that maybe people might be incarcerated, to force them to quarantine.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself. Are you? What motivates you to be so concerned about this? Or is it something that affects your job? Or have you had any personal experience with this?
I feel like it affects every aspect of our lives.
Okay.
Whether or not this is even going to be New York State, is that going to be a place that people are going to want to even come to? If you are, it doesn't even really, it doesn't specify COVID either. So these health conditions, next year it could be something else.
Right.
It just gives. I'm a pro-freedom person. Let me tell you that. That's all I can say.
I stumbled on a article from New Jersey that the governor of New Jersey, Murphy, is considering actually removing the mask mandate for school kids. Basically that whatever, if you agreed on the need or not, it's subsided now anyway. I mean, but I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate your commitment to talking about these subjects and getting the message out. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we don't need this. This is insane.
Okay.
And there was an attempt last year in December, actually, to have this go through the legislature and have the legislature pass these rules. And that was the assemblyman withdrew it because it was so unpopular. But if this goes through, if this goes through the departments, other than public comment, nobody gets to vote on it.
Right.
So that's why it's so important. It just basically circumvents the legislative process.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely encourage everyone to chime in to their representatives and state their position.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for listening.
You're welcome. Thanks for being there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So the purpose of Medical Monday is to really kind of present information, and I do offer my opinion, and Robin does, Dan does, but it's meant to be a forum, so I always want to stop short of endorsing something versus the other. I understand the concern that this is maybe going too far, and we were going to talk about COVID, how the numbers seem to be improving. Or they are improving dramatically, and the need for draconian measures like she was just describing, maybe they do go a little too far. I don't know how you would enforce any sort of mandatory quarantining.
Well, there's a certain workup in China. I mean, China is putting huge regulations into just going into various neighborhoods and things like that, and there are you have red, green, and blue. I mean, I'm sorry, green, orange, and red. If you're red, forget it. You can't go anywhere. If you're yellow, you can go some places, and if you're green, you're clear. And that's the health code in China. And, they're doing this, obviously, to make sure that this month they can start the Olympics.
Yeah.
And that is clearly the most regulated population in the world. Might have something to do with the fact that it started there, but nevertheless, the population by and large embraces it, which is very interesting.
Right, and
we're not that way.
That's such a, I don't know, complicated thing to discuss. I mean, how do we don't really know if they're embracing it because, they have a country that doesn't really.
This is true. I mean, that's what, articles that I've read.
I think that this is
infer is that the population seems to be acclimating to it, and you do acclimate to these kinds of pressures.
It is possible. I understand the way that numbers are down now. That some of these measures maybe could be loosened up a little bit, and again, the idea of incarcerating people, who are not properly quarantining, that might rub people the wrong way a little bit. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Even in New York.
Even in New York.
Even though we're very compliant when it comes to moving. Like doing the right thing.
And even though that she mentioned something about nurses giving out COVID vaccine, I mean, I would not be in favor of that without parental consent. So
right.
Excuse me. I mean,
it's not new. I was vaccinated in school, so
Yeah, what did you probably get? You probably got
I got a live polio vaccine under my tongue. I got. It was just. It's just kind of
we
how
got vaccinations all our
that's how they did
early
it.
lives.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's important to say that there's going to be a far left, there's going to be a far right, and probably people should end up somewhere in a middle ground where where things make sense, where it's a common sense type of approach. I mean, I understand what she's saying about the nursing homes, and I have family and friends that had terrible experiences over the past 2 years with their loved one in a nursing home. I can't see them, can't touch them looking through a window. I mean, it was really horrible for everyone concerned. We have a loved one in a nursing facility right now. If I want to see her, I have to be tested every 3 days.
Exactly.
I'm happy and willing to do that. I have to wear goggles. I have to wear a mask. I have to wear a gown. I have to comply with all of the regulations to keep my loved one and myself safe. So I'm totally willing to do that. But as I said, you're going to have this far left, you're going to have this far right, and none of those seem correct to me. So I'm saying that I think the best advice, and thankfully the caller did call in, if this initiative is going to be voted on Valentine's Day, do you know what the initiative is? Have you read the initiative as a constituent?
Look it up.
Look it up, read it. What do you think about it? And then call your your legislator and let them know how you feel about it so that they can speak on your behalf. And I think the most important thing she just told us all to do was be informed and understand what's happening.
Absolutely.
Yes, well said.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Thank you, Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stanberg, for being with us this last half hour from 8 o'clock to 8:30. And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. Monday, February 7th, and 22 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Herzog's. Stop by Herzog's Home and Paint Center in the Kingston Plaza for all of your home building and maintenance and painting needs, and discover the difference of buying local. Sales are ongoing at herzogs.com. Herzog's employees have been a part of the Herzog's family for years, and they value personal customer service and being close to their community. You will have help when you get to Herzog's. Okay, we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Are you a renter or homeowner having trouble paying past due electric and gas bills? The Regular Arrears Supplement Program may help. If you're eligible for the program, you could receive up to $10,000 in aid. If you're behind in rent payments, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program may also help. Get the relief you need to help pay off those bills. Visit the Assistance Programs section of centralhudson.com for eligibility and application requirements.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylance from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Listener, thank you very, very much for letting us know that our signal is getting out there. Might be a little bit light today, but thank you for letting us know. Cloudy this morning with periods of light rain and snow this afternoon with a high of 36. Areas of freezing rain possible. And Monday night, tonight, overcast with a few flurries or snow showers possible, a low of 27. And Tuesday, intervals of clouds and sunshine with a high of 42. That's nice. We'll get some melting going on. And Tuesday night, clear skies, a low of 18. Just to reiterate, with a high of 42 on Tuesday, that means some of that ice is going to get off of those trees. Obviously, and that will be a very, very good thing. Tuesday night, a low of 18 with clear skies, and Wednesday, again, a high up to 44, sunshine and some clouds. And Wednesday night, down to 28, partly cloudy early with increasing clouds overnight. Now let's get back to the on-air studio. I think... we've got a sponsor for this upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio, which is Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley and one near you. Now let's get back to the on-air studio with Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the last half hour of this morning's show. I want to give a hello to my respected colleague, Dr. Liz Levine, who is listening right now. She shall be a guest on, I don't know whether it's next week or 2 weeks from now. So, and we do have some interesting guests booked for the next couple of weeks. We also have Dr. David Templeton. He is the head of the emergency room at Northern Dutchess Hospital. And we also have a Dr. Minarich, who is a new surgeon over at Vassar. And they're all booked. People are flocking to be guests on this show.
That's right.
It's a all right. So we were talking a little bit. We were talking about the importance of getting treatment for opioid problems. Okay, and then we can explore that more at another time. But I just want people to understand that it's a medical problem, and if they themselves are having problems with this or know anyone who is, to really encourage them to get proper treatment. And the treatment's good. Treatment works. Whenever we have a potential new Suboxone patient in my practice, we really prioritize getting them in as soon as possible, because that window, to relapse is gonna, get closed pretty quickly if people have a delay in getting proper treatment. And then we were going to segue over to what's going on with COVID in our community. We had a caller kind of voice some concerns about the proposed restrictions and, her opinion that they were going a little too far. Robin and I tend to be kind of more moderate people. We certainly don't want draconian policies passed. We want, reasonable policies passed. Anyway. So what do you want to say about COVID? Overall, it's down in our community.
You were in the hospital this weekend. How did you find it?
Well, there are still many patients hospitalized with COVID, about a third of the patients.
So can you clarify? I mean, someone who's hospitalized with COVID is very sick, right?
Yeah. First of all, there's a little confusion, okay? So everybody who gets admitted to the hospital, we have to do a COVID test. So yes, there are people who are on the list who are kind of in there for other reasons, and they had a positive test. So sometimes that leads people to feel that numbers are being inflated. But if someone has COVID and they need to be admitted, it means they're pretty sick. Usually it means they have COVID pneumonia, so the COVID is in their lungs. And I did it over the weekend. There was somebody, there are people passing away from it. The severe cases and even the fatalities are usually a lagging indicator because these are people who've been sick for 2, 3, 4 weeks. So this surge that we saw of Omicron is kind of a month old now at this point. For the most part, that surge is over, which is
right. And if you look at the graph or any graph of COVID numbers in the county, you see the spike it's was the highest that we've ever seen.
Yeah. It's it's an interesting graph that you can just look at. I don't know.
If you just pull up the county COVID information, The graph will pop right up for you. So they're just documenting how many people and how many fatalities, and it's that Omicron surge was significant.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was the biggest surge we had, and as abruptly as it showed up, it kind of went away.
Right. So you're kind of saying people who were affected by that surge could be experiencing death at this time, a few weeks later. Right. Yes. And I mean, my daughter, who's a young woman, 30 years old, lost a classmate to COVID.
A local young
They
man.
aren't just
very sad.
Elderly people. So, and that was just 2 weeks ago. So
this was a gentleman in his early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
So, yeah, I mean, it's still here.
In my opinion, the ones who get very sick with COVID, there's usually, most of the time, there's something wrong with their vaccination story. Okay, so either they were never vaccinated, either they never were fully vaccinated, they just went back and had one dose and only one dose, or they weren't boosted, and that's kind of a problem. So remember, the vaccine first came out in January, so that's a year old. So the booster was started to be recommended in the fall, but really, only about 30% of people are properly boosted. And that booster makes a big difference. In the ones who are fully vaccinated and up to date and completely vaccinated, a lot of them have significant underlying health problems. Autoimmune conditions, cancers, or just kind of very elderly. So that's kind of sums up who seems to be getting very sick now from COVID to the point of having to be admitted, and it's serious. But I'm cautiously optimistic that we can, as spring comes upon us, certain public health restrictions can be lifted. Some of what she described, maybe we do go too far, and maybe we have to find something that is in the middle somewhere, so people kind of feel, what's the word? They feel like they're being good citizens, but they don't feel like,
oppressed.
Oppressed, that's right. And there's a big caveat with that, which is, another surge, because it still could happen. There was talk about a kind of a morphed Omicron kind of showing up. A couple major changes in treatment. This pill called Paxlovid is becoming more widely available, and the data on it is really quite good. 70 to 90% prevention of serious illness. So, right now there's still criteria in place to see if you're, at risk enough to justify giving it. But as supply increases, that might kind of go away. It might become kind of like a Tamiflu.
Is that prophylactic, or is that once you have been tested positive?
Right now, it is to treat a diagnosed case. There is talk and study going into prophylaxis, prevention. of getting it. Like, again, let's liken it to Tamiflu. So Tamiflu is the product that's used to treat the flu, which, by the way, I saw a little bit of it, but not that much yet. Let's, fingers are crossed, but we're almost halfway through February here. So Tamiflu is also for 5 days, like Paxlovid is. It's available. So if someone is sick enough or presenting within the right time frame, there's a candidate going that it doesn't have to be limited by age or other health problems. So I think Paxlovid will hopefully also kind of reach that point as well. But there are times where Tamiflu is prescribed prophylactically, like usually in the context of like a nursing home where there's an outbreak of the flu.
Or in a home.
Or in a home, if some kids get the flu and there's elderly grandmother living there, so prophylaxis can sometimes be given.
Mm-hmm.
So Paxlovid is available. Inpatient treatment, the cornerstone is usually dexamethasone, which is a type of steroid. COVID pneumonia is a viral pneumonia, and steroids can help with that. Again, it's all about steroids are very complicated. They help you boost your immune system initially, but not long term. But they also decrease inflammation. That's why they're used a lot. For things like rheumatoid arthritis to decrease inflammation. Another product that's been given to the inpatients is an antiviral product called Remdesavir, and a study just came out about Remdesavir, which unfortunately the link is not coming up here. Let me try it again. I had it all primed up for last night to discuss today. Let's see. All right, to cut right to the chase, the Remdesavir, the article compared people who just got dexamethasone versus people who got dexamethasone and Remdesavir, about 150 patients in each group, and it showed really some positive effects of the Remdesavir. I really wish I could pull it up here. I don't know why this doesn't work like this.
So helping that steroid work better.
According to this study, seemed to reinforce the value of Remdesavir, because there has been some debate about is it necessary, is it effective. It happens to be very, very expensive, so that doesn't help, right?
What about the infusions? I'm not hearing too much
The
about
monoclonal?
the
Antibody infusion. Well, the one that we were using rather quickly and effectively, Regeneron, was quickly found to be not effective to
this variant.
Yeah, with this variant.
Okay.
So there are alternatives, and the names are complicated. So yes, you can. I much rather at this point prescribe the Paxlovid for someone. I just think seems to be an easier option, and the hospitals have been kind of overwhelmed, and trying to arrange the antibody infusion has been difficult.
And also, it's been, I guess, reduced because it's not as effective.
Right. I mean, there's an alternative infusion, and the supply of that is improving. But I still just kind of, I think the pill's a better choice.
Right. So if you're in, you have a severe case and you meet the criteria, the pill, the 5-day oral medication is prescribed.
Right. There is another oral medication. I think it's called Molnupiravir. So the Paxlovid is about 75 to 85% effective. The other one is only about 30%. So clearly, Paxlovid is the superior medication. So I just think that if we get another surge and we're more prepared this time, that was something that did happen. We didn't have enough tests available to really kind of address this. I think with an adequate supply of the Paxlovid and making sure that testing is widely available, as quickly as possible, I think we will be better equipped to handle the next surge. At the same time, I'm still going to advocate for people to be vaccinated and boosted.
Is there word of a second boost?
It's talked about, maybe 6 months after the first one, but right now it's not recommended or approved. But we'll see. We'll visit this subject again in July or August.
And as we said, we've been saying for this whole time, since this whole thing has begun, that this is a fluid situation. It was a novel virus, brand new, unknown to anyone. And, as the science improves or people learn more about it or the study groups improve, the medicine changes. And I just find that hopefully people are, using common sense as far as that's concerned. That, there's no concrete answer. There's no nothing black and white about this. There never has been. So this is a gray area as people learn more and as everything progresses and everyone goes forward, things will be different, things will change, and we kind of have to, I don't know, what is that, like bend like a willow? Like you just have to be a little flexible and understand that, things are going to, and just protect ourselves as best we can, protect other people.
Our food chain society and culture, as well as our medical culture, needs to be very, very prophylactic, preventative about a possible new crossover at some point. Mm-hmm. So we can deal with our own medical viruses and bacterias, but let's not get more from the animals too.
I agree with that. And the vaccines is an example where maybe the goalpost did shift a little bit. We're not always talking about the vaccine to prevent the illness, although it does do that. It didn't do it too well with Omicron, but other variants down the road might do a better job of. But the evidence is very good that the vaccine prevented and boosting prevented more serious cases. So. So with the Remdesavir, okay, let's see. I finally found the article. I don't know if people find this interesting, but the Remdesavir plus the dexamethasone versus no dexamethasone. Let's see. The length of clearance of the virus in the Remdesavir group was 6 days versus 16 days in the one that did not receive it. The mortality in the ones that received Remdesavir was 1.3% versus the one in dexamethasone was 16%. Pretty good data. Reduction in hospital days was also significant. So I myself kind of, I read articles in the journals, and then there was some articles kind of giving a little countercurrent that this treatment may not be effective. But this article really, I think, makes a pretty good case. So, and they use the phrase peer-reviewed with these articles. You can't just publish everything in the medical literature. There's supposed to be certain standards of research are supposed to be adhered to. And the fact that it, I think it's a good article. There immediately were some comments kind of questioning, it's not a good study. It looked like a good study to me. I mean, it's always nicer to have a larger study. The more people involved, the better. This one was only about 150, but those are pretty big differences in the treatment group versus the non-treatment group. So I thought that was good news for recommending Remdesavir as a treatment.
And as a medical professional, I think it's important that maybe the listening audience understands that physicians have to be up to date on all new information.
That's right.
Get your information from different sources, and these articles that are published are, as you said, they're under strict criteria of what's actual and what can be considered scientific and what can't.
Right.
You're not just like pulling stuff out of the air and saying, this is true. Right. You have to prove it. And
that was an old joke in college. We would say something off the wall, and someone would say, "Well, where'd you see that?" He'd say, "I read it somewhere." And we would go, "Really?" And then the answer was, "Yeah, I wrote it down, and then I read it." So you're just making up your own facts.
Right. And I mean, that we kind of joke about that now. It's
Corroboration, please.
Well, it was on the internet, so it must be true. I mean, so you can you can joke about it, but sometimes that's not so funny.
Right. You have to really be careful about where your information's coming from.
Yeah, it's not so funny that the vote was stolen. That's not so funny either.
What was?
The election. But we're not going to go there.
No, we try to stay away from that.
I know.
I think it's interesting, Dan, because you and I both work in the service industry in a restaurant setting, and I'm required to be masked.
Absolutely.
I can, as an
Absolutely.
employee.
Every precaution
and,
possible.
I go
Every
to work,
precaution
so
possible.
I am definitely.
By the way, I am too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's not
It's
plenty of times I
frontline
sit at my
stuff.
desk and can't wait to take this thing off,
Oh, absolutely.
But
No,
it's-
every time I go into an empty room or something like that, I pull it down and take a deep breath.
Right, and none of us that work there are like, banging the table, angry because we're being
God, no.
forced to the truth
Don't
is,
take it out on the people.
It's all appreciated.
Yeah.
It's all
So-
appreciated. When I walk up to a table and the customers are confident that they're in a safe place, and I'm masked, and everyone in the staff is masked. It allows us to be able to continue our businesses, right, Robin?
it's the most important thing, honestly. Our businesses were hit hard the last couple days, with this, unexpected storm.
Businesses lost the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The restaurant business.
So, yeah. And, just adjusting to whatever comes our way, to stay
You ever
stay
wear
vigilant.
the I-95 mask?
Yeah, N95. The deadly
Listeners.
N95 mask.
Oh my goodness! Where did you purchase your I-95 mask?
On the thruway.
On the thruway.
All right, that's a joke. Robin.
Oh,
Price was
I-95.
$6.20. I don't know
Okay,
why.
all right.
There is no
catch
I-95
that.
mask. It's an N95.
I-95.
I-95 is the highway.
Very funny, Robin. All right, so what does the week hold in store for us? Well, I shall be starting my patients in about 20, 30 minutes. I always encourage people to remember doctor-patient etiquette or provider-patient etiquette. It's a two-way street, by the way. But to understand that your healthcare system is complicated and, dare I say, chaotic at times. So understand that your provider's office is on your side. So, be patient as well.
And be honest. Be honest with your primary care physician.
Yeah.
That's very important. Really be forthright.
I always remind people to bring your issues, present your issues at the beginning of the appointment, because we're trying to kind of make room for everything. Sometimes people think they're being polite and kind of let me do my part of the, appointment first, and then they save their issues for the end, and by then, time is limited. That's always good advice. Be kind of upfront with what you expect out of the appointment. And by the way, they kind of teach us, what are your concerns today? We're supposed to ask, but at the same time, the appointment, you're supposed to review their chronic problems, the blood pressure, so that also occupies time.
Make sure they have all their current screenings, right? Oh, speaking of that, I have to get my mammogram.
Aha, yes. We don't want people to fall behind in their medical care because of COVID. It's important that you stay up in that. It's not going to help anyone that we're going to wind up with a missed case of breast cancer because the woman, put off getting her mammogram. So that's always important too. Sit back and say, well, maybe I am due for an appointment.
Right. What else? Prostate, colonoscopies, lung screenings if appropriate.
I'm a big advocate of that because I've seen some success with it. And I still think it's underutilized, but lung cancer screening, the evidence is very good that this is helpful. Colon cancer screening, the age is lowered now to 45. I personally think it should be lowered down to 40, but who am I anyway? But we heard about a sad man in our community who passed away at 44 years old from colon cancer. So I have a feeling at some point we're going to go even lower with that. We got 1 minute to the end of the show. Again, let's look at who we have next week. Hold on.
And and your student, hopefully. We have some students who are accompanying you through your day, learning on the job, so to speak.
I teach them everything I know.
You probably do. You probably do. Thank you.
My
Dr.
grandfather used to say, I taught you everything I know, but you still know nothing.
Dr. Stanberg, thank you so much for your service.
I can't find my schedule.
Okay, we'll tell you next week.
All right, how are we doing here? Okay. Next
Yeah, we got
week's
a
guest is, drum roll please.
Which notebook is it in?
It is Dr. Liz Levine, who's listening
Liz
right
Levine.
now.
Okay, excellent.
She's the head the director of the hospice program over at Northern Dutchess Hospital, and she also has a lot of interest and focus on people being prepared with end-of-life type issues, which is, as we say on the show, a big topic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. Have a nice week, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker. Thank you so much for your hosting and bringing in all of this incredible information. And thank you for sharing the morning with us and participating in Kingston Community Radio, KCR AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and our live streaming on mykcr.org, WGHQ. Talk radio at its best. Inspired discussions of, by, and for the community. We invite you to keep up with us every weekday from 7 to 9 a.m. And until tomorrow, we wish you every success in growing and developing Kingston and all our neighboring communities. I would like to tell you that our last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one right near you. And with that, we now return you to Magic 92.5.